Hello, can you hear us on Zoom?
Hi, yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, hi guys. I wanted to let you know that we're still waiting for quorum. So we're waiting on one more member and we'll get started as soon as they show up.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thanks.
For everyone on Zoom, we just got in contact with our last NAB member. He'll be in about 5 minutes. Thank you guys for your patience. All right, Mr. Chair, I am ready to begin when you are.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, my name is Gabriel Maya, and I'll be acting chair for this evening for the Ward 3 neighborhood. What am I doing wrong?
No.
Hello? Okay,
We can hear you.
that's sweet deal. All right, so let's begin.
I'm going to call attendance, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
All right. Ilya Arbataman. Absent at this time. Emmanuel Gutierrez. Absent at this time. Marisela Gutierrez Rodriguez. Absent at this time. Jennifer Hildebrand,
Present.
present on Zoom. Gabriel Maya,
Present.
Jennifer Simeo,
Simeo here.
sorry. Thank you. Present on Zoom. Ryan Smith. Absent at this time. Alexander Woodard,
Here.
present at this time. Marie Rodriguez.
Present.
Thank you. Council liaison,
Present.
and then myself, staff liaison present. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and go into section 8.2 for public comment. This item is for either public comment or, This item is for either public comment or any action item or any general public comment, and it's limited to no more than 3 minutes for each commentator.
Mr. Chair, we have one public comment form submitted. Donna Clontz.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and NAB Board. My name is Donna Clontz. I sat in your seats for many years as a NAB Chair in Northwest Reno in Ward 5, and then served about 10 on your Senior Advisory Board for the City of Reno. So I'm here as a longtime City of Reno volunteer and senior advocate. I gave you a small pack of information about some of the senior resources that exist here in the City of Reno. And maybe someday, if you want a presentation on all the different things that are happening here in Reno and Washoe County for our senior community, I'd be glad to come back and do that for you someday. There are about a third of our county residents who are 50 and older, which is the AARP number for people who are called elders or seniors. Most of our community programs, though, start at 60 or 65, and there are about almost 30% of our Washoe County community is made up of folks of that age as well. So we're pretty rich in people that have done a lot in their lives, and many of whom are retired, who love to move here because we've got so much going on here in our community. So I wanted to let you know about a couple of things. I gave you some of the AARP materials about member joining. Some of you are too young for that, I can tell already, but they also are working really hard on giving a lot of information about how to prevent fraud and how to avoid being taken in so many of the scams that are out there today. So I've given you some of the AARP information about that. I volunteer for the state of Nevada for AARP, and so I do what we are involved in here for the past 5 years is an age-friendly program, which is a national program that allows the community to identify what would make that community better for all of us as we get older. And it's called being age-friendly. So we can improve our parks, we can improve our roads, our social services, anything you can think of that makes the life better for each of us as we get older also helps everyone younger as well, the kids, the families, and also our elders. So we started an age-friendly program here in Reno in 2018, and it's made up of volunteers that are working on three big things. I gave you this one flyer that's got all of the areas that have been identified in the research about what can make a community more livable, more age-friendly. And in Reno, we're working on better transportation, more affordable housing, and better communication of information about what exists out there. And so the last thing I'll talk about in my last 30 seconds is the senior resource fairs that are going on at our libraries right now that we as volunteers in the senior community are working together to present. So our next two are at South Valley's Library. We've done 4 already, some at Sparks and some at Northwest. And so we have all of the agencies and all of the players that put together our services in transportation, in housing, in healthcare, in just about caregiving, anything you can think of that relates to living a better life here in town. So I want to let you know about those and ask you to pass the word. Thank you.
Very much.
All right, Mr. Chair, at this time, no other public comment has been received.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next section, 8.3, approval for agenda. For March 7th, 2023. Can I get a motion for approval?
This is Alexander Woodard for the record. I submit a motion to approve the agenda.
This is Jennifer Simeo. I will second that.
The motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Motion passes. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Let's do approval for the minutes for January 5th, 2023. May I get a motion for approval? NAB members?
This is Alexander Woodard again for the record. I submit a motion for approval for the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion has been approved.
1 second.
Oh, sorry.
Marie, can I have you turn on your mic and say your name and then say that you second? No, you're okay.
For the record, this is Marie Rodriguez and I second.
And then, Mr. Chair, prior to your motion, apologies, you will request for all those in favor to say aye?
I
Yeah.
apologize for this.
No, that's good.
For
All those in favor?
all those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. All of those opposed?
Motion carries.
Perfect.
All right, so let's go ahead and go into council liaison report.
Yes, hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Miguel Martinez. For the record, as the council liaison, I just want to welcome Marie Rodriguez to her first meetings. Thank you for joining us and being willing to fill one of the seats that we had vacant in the NAB. I appreciate it. And then I will also mention that there were 2 of our members that have resigned, and can you remind me of their names?
Yes, yes, council member. So we do have Tracy Kimmons, who was an alternate. She's resigning. And then Jennifer as well. I know we have both Jennifers on. And it was Jennifer Hildebrand, who will be resigning as well. So we appreciate all their time and dedication to the NAB. But continue.
Yes,
Councilman.
thank you so much. I appreciate you filling in that rest of the information. The only other announcement I wanted to make was that we are trying to reinvigorate our Youth City Council here at the City of Reno. So we're looking for anybody 14 to 22 that may want to get involved with the experience of working with local government. The individuals that apply and get appointed will have money to do events for people of that age in our community. And they'll also be able to make recommendations to the city council. So if you all know anybody, I would just appreciate any help getting the word out on that. So, yep, that's it for me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Do I need to approve this as well? No?
No
Okay.
need for approval.
So let's go ahead and go to staff liaison report.
For the record, Abigail Mayorga, Community Liaison. I just want to echo Councilmember Martinez welcoming of Marie, and thanks to Jennifer as well for participating. We wish all the best for Jennifer and the best for Marie as we continue on. And I don't really have anything else to report. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and go to the business item. Let's go to business item B1. Washoe County School District, the Vaughn Middle School update.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. My name is Adam Searcy. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with the Washoe County School District. This is just an informational presentation, requested an opportunity to engage with the NAB, specifically around the project we're planning at Vaughn Middle School. But before I get too far into it, I wanted to give just a little bit of background information about how we arrived to, or how we initiated this particular project. So the school district facilities department has since 2016 been working towards delivering specific projects in response to what at the time was called the WC1 initiative. So this is a funding stream dedicated exclusively to repair and construction of school facilities. We've since then opened a number of new schools, renovated and expanded older schools as well, and simultaneously really added capacity to our entire district such that going forward, the majority of our capital improvements are intended to be focused on our existing schools. That will still reserve capacity for new schools when and if needed as growth dictates. It will still reserve resources for repairing, roofs and boilers and windows and things like that. But it leaves us with significant resources to reinvest in our existing schools. And to that end, we hired architectural consultant to analyze our schools district-wide, to look at them from a condition standpoint, but also from an equity standpoint, looking at some of our schools built in this case in the 50s and 60s, many of those schools across the district, in comparison to some of our most modern, newest schools, and imagining how the students will have or can have a similar experience in each school. Looking at it from not only a quantitative standpoint, the age and the condition of those schools, but a qualitative standpoint. Hey, what are some of the socioeconomic variables associated with each school? What are some of the safety considerations, some of the academic performance considerations, and weighing all of those variables and trying to make recommendations to us on what we might do to which school and in which order. So anyway, that's a little background. That study is ongoing and it is comprehensive across the entire district. But in December, the consultant presented a recommendation to our Capital Funding Protection Committee, an advisory committee to the Board of Trustees that 2 city council members sit on from the city of Reno, as well as other agencies and private citizens. And ultimately to the Board of Trustees, recommending that Vaughn Middle School, for all of the variables that we kind of just described, really has risen to the top of the list, and that there's a sense of urgency with which they were recommending we proceed with some transformative investments on that campus. So, little background to that end, we have begun with their approval the design of a replacement school, a replacement middle school to the existing Vaughn Middle School. And I'll walk through some of the details on the next slides, but this is intended to be an on-site replacement. So if any of you are familiar with the O'Brien Middle School and what we've done up there instead over the last year and are continuing to do, we actually have a middle school design which will fit on the existing campus while maintaining a safe, active campus during construction. So the intention is to build a new school and then ultimately demolish the old school and essentially flip the campus to a degree. Of course, then providing those students a completely new facility with equitable access to a variety of different opportunities. And then, of course, healthier conditions for staff, for students, and really to invigorate the learning environment. The schedule that's on this slide is our current projection. Of course, it takes quite some time to design this, and building on an active campus is inherently a little bit slower, lots more constraints, and for good reason. So we'll take due care there. And then, of course, the school opens in August. So whether or not you can complete it in October or November, really, it needs to be completed and open for August. So we're at August 2026 for the opening of the new school, which really then and only then will vacate the existing school and allow us to complete the remainder of the project. So this, I'm getting a little ahead of myself there on some of these slides. I wanted to give the background on how we got here. And the next few slides are photos of O'Brien Middle School. And I want to emphasize their photos. So while we're building the same prototype, the same design, there are going to be, customizations. We're going to rearrange the building a little bit, but it will give you a sense of the type of school that we're intending to construct for this community during this timeline. This is the front of O'Brien Middle School. This is an actual photo. And as I said, we replaced the O'Brien Middle School on an active campus. These statistics are specifically related to the O'Brien Middle School. Some of the spaces in this school. Now, if you've been in Vaughn Middle School, perhaps many of you even went to Vaughn Middle School, right? These are photos from O'Brien Middle School cafeteria, obviously the multipurpose room, the stage in the multipurpose room, which doesn't exist in Vaughn Middle School at all. There's a cafeteria, but there's not the stage like that. You can see the daylighting and the modern kitchen, et cetera. Imagine the impact. You guys can all appreciate the impact that the school environment has on the lives of these children, and having these types of facilities in their life, what it might mean to that community overall. So there's several slides just highlighting elements of the O'Brien Middle School. There's a large and welcoming and particularly safe vestibule. We do have a secure point of entry at Vaughn Middle School today, but this is really our most modern design here, illustrated at O'Brien Middle School. And then we have these student hub spaces on each of the learning classroom floors, where students can collaborate with each other and generally socialize within the classroom environment. Again, not something that exists today at Vaughn Middle School, but does exist in all of our newest schools, not only O'Brien, but also, for example, Marcy Hers, if you're familiar with that, Desert Skies Middle School up in Sun Valley have spaces in a different configuration, but similar to this. And that's really one of the foundational pillars of this study, is to try to create and bring those opportunities to all of our students, regardless of zip code. So just zooming in a little, or continuing a little bit more, a brand new library, of course, a cornerstone of any school. Dramatic improvement from the 60-plus-year-old space at Vaughn Middle School. This is, again, photos from O'Brien. Gymnasium and music classrooms, wonderful extracurricular activities. And of course, particularly with the gymnasium, becomes a critical community center used after hours for all manner of youth sports and even community gatherings and types of organizational events after hours. This is the type of space that we'd be looking to construct at Vaughn Middle School as well. We have these inclusive and more improved safety, general use restrooms, wider corridors, subtle things with the color accents, the superior lighting, the superior sight lines actually improve student behavior when you don't have those closed off bathrooms where students can go in there and misbehave with poor supervision. We find that this, as a standard in all of our schools, does actually positively, in fact, affect the the behavior and the student safety in those areas. Some specialized areas, again, that generally don't exist in some of our older schools. These modern tools and equipment that come with the schools. We're not just building the walls, we're furnishing all of our schools with tools and new furniture that will enable them and facilitate the type of elective classroom learning. Those are just a couple of highlights of the types of spaces. Of course, there's dozens of classrooms, which also will be outfitted with the latest technology, brand new furniture, spectacular daylighting, superior windows, modern HVAC. So just simple things such as heating and cooling that can really negatively affect the learning environment in a brand new school will be top notch. So just zooming in a little bit more specifically on how we're going to get there. We've got an aerial image of the existing campus. Of course, you can recognize Vassar and Bresson as the front of the school facing north today. And again, just for orientation, you've got the Boys and Girls Club right across the street, who has been and looks to continue to be a key partner for us throughout this project and really for the school district in general. And we've got kind of in the middle of the campus, you can see the text in white. It says cell tower and existing infrastructure. So those are, the types of construction constraints that we're always going to have to work around. This slide illustrates really the conceptual level of construction logistics that we're at. Basically reorienting the new school design to build it on the space, the footprint that you see outlined in white. That would be fenced off and secured from the rest of the campus and allow the school district and our contractors to execute this construction project over the 24-month period or so that it will take, completely in isolation from this active school campus adjacent to it. A lot of details to iron out, but having executed it successfully at O'Brien, a lot of those same lessons learned will be brought to bear, including one of the more interesting aspects was engagement with the students. Of course, it's a bit of an inconvenience to lose access to most of your playground for a construction project. We partnered with the contractor and many of the engineers that worked on the project to try to, instead of making it an inconvenience, sort of enhancement to their experience. That we had activities in the gymnasium. We brought some professionals into the classroom. It's not every day that you get to watch a construction project of this magnitude be built. Try and translate that into their curriculum. These are middle schoolers, so to the extent they appreciated it is up for debate. But that type of enrichment, rather than making it this inconvenience, hey, we're a roommate of sorts on your property to the school, and how can we embrace that and make it an enriching experience? This is the mindset that we're going into this with, and I kind of want to express that mindset here tonight to the NAB that, we recognize this is going to be a change for the community and an inconvenience certainly during construction, but ultimately keeping in mind that end goal that I started with, to provide an equitable experience, a new modern experience, and one that we biasly feel at the school district is transformative to the fabric of this community. The children's lives, how it affects the nearby residents' lives, and how it affects the community as they come and go before and after the school hours inside that building. So it's a little bit more detailed layout. You can kind of see the spaces, the large spaces within the building, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the front door. Right now, the plan is to orient the building facing west, or on at the main access point will be off of Yorrie. Very sensitive to the traffic on Vassar. You can see it will only be ingress egress for buses and not visitors or staff parking. But this particular slide illustrates that phase after the summer 2026, when the students come back into the new school. The old school is vacant. and then we can demolish the old school. But again, you can get a little bit of a sense of how the building will lay out with the classrooms, those specialized spaces, the library and everything, and the cafeteria, those community spaces that we saw the pictures of at O'Brien. And this illustrates the proposed final condition where you can see the old building footprint having been demolished and then restored with new grass ball fields, similar to what's there currently. Ultimately trying to, ensure that all of those facilities are not only restored to the community, but in an equitable fashion with what other middle schools are provided. You can see significant parking and access then off of Bresson all the way the length of the property, and staff parking we're able to create enough space on the east side to provide all that parking, again, being sensitive to the traffic on Vassar, consolidating our resources through the school buses and making that front of house for visitor only, pushing that staff and parent pickup and drop off to Bresson and even the rear of the building. So that's kind of an overview. We do have a lot of details to iron out. It's in part why I wanted to come to you early to plant this seed and open up a line of dialogue. We've got a team of engineers and architects working on traffic studies and detailed architectural design, even taking many of the lessons learned from this O'Brien project and reconfiguring it and incorporating it into this school. I did want to flag that we anticipate the need to come back for an administrative review hearing. Technically speaking, the height of the building exceeds what is permitted in the range of less than 10 feet in a certain location. So technically we will need to go through that additional approval process to construct a building slightly higher than what's allowable by code. So you'll see us again on this, but I actually work with Ryan Smith. He couldn't be here tonight. A former assistant principal of Vaughn Middle School, coincidentally, is on this neighborhood advisory board, and work with council member Martinez as well. And just, again, feel very strongly about the overall impact and benefit to the community that this project can and will have. So wanted to start early with the conversation, particularly with this NAB on, what it might look like going forward. So that's kind of the introduction. I'm happy to discuss anything and just keep in touch going forward. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, you can open it up to questions from your NAB members.
Very good. Any questions from our NAB committee or NAB board?
Hi, this is Jennifer Hildebrandt. I do have one question.
Hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
So the map that you have that has the proposed outlines on the east side of the property, there's the area that's designated for staff parking. Is that going to be available for the community to use when there's sporting events going on the fields? Like, will that be available parking?
Most likely, yes. I think I don't have the slides numbered. It's towards the end. Thank you for bringing that back up. Those staff parking areas are typically sort of informally designated, right? It's not like there's a fence or a key. It's just signed as such during school hours. So I think to your point, after school hours, staff's majority not there. Yeah, that will be available for families and community parking that are frequently using those fields for youth sports and other activities.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
Marie Rodriguez. My question is during construction, that area being closed off so that they're pretty much confined to the old school. Maybe you can enlighten me. I know like in high schools, they actually have like baseball teams or soccer teams in school. Do they have that at the middle school level? And if that's the case, where will the students be able to practice their sports during the construction time?
The middle school sports are much more limited than high school. They have basketball. They have some indoor sports, volleyball, things like that. We have some track and field activities. Obviously, they don't have the same track and field activities as some of the other middle schools. So, you know, what we have begun conversations on is if they needed to share athletic facilities with another middle school, that might be a scenario, you know, to make sure that these students are not, you know, they don't have to endure less of an opportunity for this type of construction. The rest of the space that's illustrated there is almost entirely used for recess. You know, there's not organized middle school interscholastic athletic events or teams that are taking place there. There's youth sports, and we've worked closely with, you know, City of Reno Parks and Rec, but most of their activities take place inside the building or could be accommodated elsewhere.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I would just like to emphasize a little bit for the record, Gabriel Maya. I do think the expansion of that music classroom is going to be very vital for the community, especially for that school. Myself being part of band for about 2 years of middle school, my 4 years of high school, having a dedicated room for specifically for band and stuff like that makes you, from my perspective, makes them more want to be a part of it instead of being, just for a quick example, unfortunately, in the last couple of years at Worcester High School, they've been throwing the strings students all over the place. Wherever they find a room, they just throw them anywhere. And they can be in the basement, they can be on a whole different side of the school. But I think having an actual designed, having this in the actual development of it and a specific area for it will be very helpful to help the students feel more connected to the art of being in a band or being in strings, or I think at some point there was choir and stuff like that as well. So I think that's gonna be pretty awesome to see when it's all finished. Is there any other questions from advisory board? No. Alrighty. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we'll hope to see you again as soon as well. And hopefully we have more questions for you then.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No problem. All right. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and continue on with the Reno Fire Department Board report for October, November, and December.
Is it possible to get the Elmo? It's an Elmo machine, right? Or is that like years and years ago? All right. For the record, Battalion Chief Brad Jensen, Reno Fire Department. First of all, thank you guys for the time to come before you today and discuss a little bit about what's going on in the fire department. To begin with, what I'd like to show you, what I've got up on the board right now, is the first quarter run statistics For 2023, and if you notice, we've just started the third month of the first quarter, so this is only 2 months worth. Currently, we are at 8,086 calls as of the end of February. That is a tremendous amount for the size of the fire department we have. With that said, District 6 and District 21 are the primary stations within Ward 3. That's why they're highlighted. Station 6 is located on Mira Loma. Station 21 is located on the southwest corner of the GSR property. You guys can see it from the freeway. Those are, like I said, the primary stations for the ward. They are right in the middle as far as call volume, 572 calls for Station 6, 611 for 21. So that's kind of in the middle, a little bit on the busier side. Numbers are great and everything. What this tells you is that we are a busy fire department, but we're well represented throughout the city. We do have 14 stations layered throughout the city. 6 and 21, like I said, belong to you, belong to the neighborhood. They truly are neighborhood stations. One thing we always do is invite people to the stations at any time. More than welcome to give tours, big groups, small groups, whatever. In addition to that, 6 and 21 are what we call single company stations. They are engines only. Quick education point here. Engines carry 4 people. They carry water. They go and put fires out. Truck companies are the big giant ladder trucks everybody likes to see. They look good in movies and on TV. They usually have a driver in the back. We have 2 of those in town, one on Moana and one right over here on 4th Street. And what they do is go in and actually rescue the people. So the engine guys do all the work. The truck guys get all the heroism for what it's worth. So that's kind of just a quick overview on the stations in Ward 3. The important things that are coming up, as you guys know, we've had a higher than normal level of snow this winter. And what we've got coming up this weekend is 40-degree weather. We are looking at flood potential. Specifically, the lower areas 21 and District 6 are both in the lower areas. Unfortunately, a lot of Ward 3 is in the lower areas. So getting the word out, there are places on the City of Reno website to find sandbags, sandbag locations, start thinking about the possibility of flooding. We are putting on extra folks for this upcoming weekend in anticipation of any rescues or to assist in any flooding situations. In addition to that, some of the other things that we did over this winter, we were very, very busy with the snow, especially the electrical issues that were going on. I know we spent a lot of time with down power lines and assisting NV Energy and assisting people whose power was out. We're not just a fire department. If you want to look over at the EMS column, 4,874 of our calls out of the 8,086 were EMS. So we are full paramedics, which means we can offer the highest level of EMS help that is available out there. Along those lines, we have just hired 6 single role medics. We're very proud of that. And what that means is more medics out in the field. And as you can see by these numbers, that is our biggest draw. So what we're doing is at Station 3, we've added an extra medic car, and they're going to be available to assist RIMSA in transport as needed, but they also provide an extra layer of paramedic service through the community. And that's something that we're very, very proud of. We've had a great support from city staff and city council. So thank you, Councilman Martinez, for your guys' support in this. And we're looking to expand that program as it takes root, which is really good. Some other things going on. We're keeping up with attrition. We just started a class of 26 new firefighters. It's approximately a 4 to 6 month class for them to learn how to be a firefighter the Reno way, because there's a lot of other ways, but the Reno way is the best. And that's what we teach them. So we're also very happy with that. In addition, I'm going to embarrass him. We also promoted a new battalion chief. That's John Mandel right there. He just got promoted. The big thing on the horizon, and this is something that is at least 15 to 16 years in the making, and it's going in front of city council tomorrow, is building a flagship station again. When Aces Baseball, prior to Aces Baseball, we had a firehouse sitting right where Aces Baseball field is. And just the way the cities work and everything, that was a prime spot to put the baseball field. It's a great location and everything like that, with the idea that eventually we would get a new station. Place that. Here we are 15, 16 years later. It's on the agenda for the council tomorrow. We've looking at just over $1 million for engineering and architecture. So it's in the preliminary stages. For those of you that don't know, the police department is moving to the old RGJ building. When they leave, then they're going to demolish a police station and we're going to get that piece of property and we're going to build just a beautiful firehouse. Hopefully it won't take too much longer. As far as that, that's all I really have. We really haven't started our summer programs yet with wildfire, specifically coming on from the west side of town. And the defensible space, that'll be something that will be discussed at the next quarterly NAB meeting. Probably get our fire prevention bureau out here as well and talk about that. But that's really what's going on in the fire department. We're moving forward. We're very happy. We've got a great relationship with city council and staff, which is awesome. So if there are any questions or anything, I'd be more than willing to take them. I'm very good at just talking out in public, so apologize for that.
For the record, Gabriel Maya, I do have a quick question.
Mhm.
You mentioned about tours. How exactly somebody can request a tour? I'm looking at the one at Station 6 for Mira Loma.
Okay, great question. There's one of two ways you can do it. If it's a small enough group, like if parents show up with kids, a couple of kids, we'll walk them to the station. If it's something like a birthday party or a number of people that you want to come through, you can get onto reno.gov, go to the fire department page, and there is a station tour request form on there. Fill it out, they get back to you within 2 or 3 days, they set up a time and we're ready to go for you.
Awesome.
You made me think of something, if I may. One thing we're doing as well right now is read-alongs. And the read-along program is, and we've been doing this for years, we go to the elementary schools and the firefighters read to the different classes. So we take the month of March, we go around to all the schools from Stead all the way down to Damani and go out to the classrooms and read to the kids, and also provide a little fire prevention talk, which the best fire that never happens is the one that never happens. We would much rather have that than, actually, we like fighting fires, but the best one is the one that never happens. So we can get to the kids when they're young, read them the story, show them our engine, talk to them about fire prevention. It's a great program.
Thank you very much. I have another quick question. For specifically our area for Ward 3,
Mhm.
it seems like there isn't many fire calls, but at the same time, what level would you say is it for those specific calls you think is more just common sense things that we do with our homes, or is it would be more things that forces nature, or what can we do to prevent, to keep those numbers set where they are right now?
Sure, that's a great question. With where those two stations are located, like I said, Mira Loma and then the GSR property, specifically the northern part of Ward 3 is a lot of industrial and a lot of commercial. And in those areas, it would be industrial injuries, car accidents, more so than the medical side. Where Station 6 is, you've got a number of homes and where people live, obviously, that's why they're called homes. But then you also have a little bit more commercial to the south side of that. So really what we're looking at is people just being aware of their surroundings within their homes. There are a lot of older homes in there, and with the commercial type stuff as well, is get CO monitors in your homes. Understand that a lot of the heating is natural gas or oil. There's a lot of CO that is produced when anytime you have a flame, and the only way to really see that or see, that's a bad term. The only way to really notice that is if you have a CO monitor in your home, because they do dub that the silent killer. So we recommend CO alarms. We recommend smoke alarms within your home. Smoke alarms are great for families and for anybody because that's what's going to get you out of the house. That's what's going to wake you up. In addition, especially right now with the icy roads, the city of Reno does a great job trying to ice and sand the roads, but it doesn't always work. There's shaded areas and everything. So drive a little slower this time of year. The majority of our runs today, specifically this morning, were ice related accidents, slips, that kind of stuff. So a little bit of common sense goes a long way. Smoke alarms, CO alarms, know your surroundings when you're driving, know the icy areas, take a little bit longer to go places. If you have a meeting at 8 o'clock and normally you leave at 7:30, if the weather is the way it is, leave at 7:15, leave at 7 o'clock, leave the cup of coffee in the holder. Don't drink it. Don't get on your phones. I mean, those are all common sense, but people need to be reminded of them as well. The other big one is get people out to trim your trees. There's a lot of beautiful mature trees, especially in District 6, the southern part of Ward 3, beautiful trees, but branches get into the wires and everything. You can call NV Energy. You can call an arborist. They'll come out, trim those trees down a little bit. A lot during the winter with heavier snow on the electrical, heavier snow on those trees. We ran a number of calls that could have been avoided if the tree branches, especially the dead ones, were cut prior to the snowfall and the electrical. Does that answer it pretty much?
Oh, yeah, that's, thank you for everything and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
I think we still had a question, Chief. Yeah,
Oh, so
sorry.
sorry.
No.
What you were mentioning about sorry, Marie Rodriguez. What you were mentioning earlier about smoke alarms and carbon monoxide, CO. Do you actually talk to or communicate with the Red Cross? Because the Red Cross will actually come to your home and install smoke alarms for free. And I don't know if the community is aware of that or if you guys are aware of that. It would be information that'd be good to pass along.
And we are aware of that.
Okay.
We also carry smoke alarms in our rigs. So if people have, hey, my smoke alarm's on, we can replace batteries, we can do that kind of thing. The one problem that we don't always like to talk about the Red Cross because unfortunately Red Cross in Reno is hit or miss. They do a great job when they are here. And I know that they do provide that stuff. Some of the other outlets for that too as well. Some of the bigger hardware stores have times when they do hand out free stuff as well. But yeah, that's something that we definitely get out. If you get a hold of our FPB Bureau, which is our Fire Prevention Bureau, they're the ones that have a lot more of those answers than we do out on the street. But yes.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people realize that they should have them. And because I live in that Rio Poco, South McCarran area where the houses were built 50 years ago. And when I purchased my home, it had one and it's a tri-level.
Sure.
And the Red Cross came out and put in the appropriate number. And so I think some people know about this, but think, well, I have the one that's here from when my house was built. But getting that information out is of where they can get them and resources of getting put in is helpful.
And I'll tell you what I'll do for you. I'll make sure that that gets up on our website within the next week or two.
Okay.
Any of that information to find those. And it's because you're right. Everybody should have them in their kitchen, outside each bedroom and a CO monitor at least on each level of the house.
Right.
Definitely. But I'll make sure that happens.
Before we let you sneak out of here, I just had one quick question
Yeah.
for you.
Absolutely.
I was wondering if you can break down some of the, I guess, how you define some of the columns that you have in the calls. So if you can put that back up. Yeah, thank you. For the column right after fire, if you could explain what that is, and then good intent. Those are the only two that.
Absolutely.
I
So
didn't
fire is
understand.
pretty self-explanatory and fire breaks down actually into outdoor fires, building fires and vehicle fires. So that's kind of self-explanatory. RUPT and EXP is rupture or explosion. That could be anything from a small white propane tank that you use on your barbecue, on up to, there was a fire out in Verdi this past week that had the possibility of some giant industrial hoppers exploding. They didn't, we got water on them, that kind of stuff, but that's a rupture or explosion. EMS is emergency medical services, that's a paramedics. Hazmat can be anything from a small gas spill that somebody has in the street while working on the car on up to a large release like you guys saw in Eastern Ohio, Western Pennsylvania this last week. That's also classified as a hazmat. To waylay people's fears, we do have one of the best hazmat teams between City of Reno, City of Sparks, and Truckee Meadows Fire in the area, including, he's since retired, but he's still active in teaching, a guy that goes all over the United States. So we do have a very premier hazmat team here. Public assist could be anything from letting somebody into a house, getting somebody in a car whose child locked themselves in a vehicle, anything along those lines that doesn't fit a normal thing, a normal column. Good intent calls could be something that people think is an emergency, such as, hey, we smell natural gas in this area. We get there, we can't find anything. Quite often, especially this time of year, we do get a lot of natural gas type calls that are good intent because as the cold air comes off the mountains, it traps everything lower because it's a heavier thing. And then when everybody's heaters fire up, with so many heaters firing up at different times, pressure relief valves go off. Perfectly normal, it happens, but you get a belch of natural gas. That could be a good intent call. Or, hey, I see smoke in this area, we'll go to it and it'll be someone's barbecue on the other side of the fence. So calls that have possibilities, but it's just good intent. False alarms, water gets in a system. So we go to a middle school or someone's home or a house or something where there's no fire or anything, but the alarm trips. Weather-related stuff would be a lot of the snow, lightning strikes, that kind of stuff, weather-related calls, flooding. Other are anything that doesn't fit in any of those. And we get a few of those. So does that answer pretty well? All right. Anything else? Okay. You guys have a wonderful evening. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All righty, so let's continue. Let's go ahead and start with the section B.3. Presentation by City of Reno planning staff.
Good evening. I'm
Good
Angela
afternoon.
Foose. I'm the Assistant Director of Development Services here at the City of Reno. So our role or our kind of take is anything related to new building, planning and zoning and engineering. And we have put a presentation together really just to highlight the process for development and what comes before you as a NAB versus what doesn't come before you and gets built and why. So we've had a number of questions from the different NABs on new development and why didn't that project come before the NAB for review? Or why do some things get on the agenda, but the people don't show up? So the goal here is really just to give you guys some background information on how development works here at the city. So to start off really at a high level, I just wanted to break it down. So the first thing you do with any new development is you say, let's just make up a use. Let's say Walgreens, right? We all know what Walgreens is. It's a commercial retail business. So Walgreens comes to Reno, and the first thing they say is, I want to build here, wherever here is. So we look at our zoning code and we say, well, what's it zoned? Does the zoning allow that type of use, a Walgreens use? If the answer is yes, then we work with them and they hire an engineer and an architect and all the folks that do the design, and they put a plan together. And then they come to us and then we look at our zoning code and we say, does it meet our parking requirements? Does it meet our landscape requirements? Does it meet all the building setbacks? We have a zoning code that's about 650 pages. So it is a huge document full of regulations. So there's a lot of detail. That's really high level what we look at. But imagine 5 million other things that we look at when we're looking at a site plan and whether or not it meets our zoning requirements. So then the next step really is, well, how do we get to a building permit, right? So in that earlier phase, sometimes you have to go to a public hearing, sometimes you can go straight to a building permit. So let's assume then they've gotten through that. They submit their application for a building permit and our building team reviews it. The fire staff review it, the police staff, the district health department, engineers, planners, a lot of people go through that review process, and that takes months to go through reviewing, and then they make changes and they resubmit again. So big picture, at the end of the day, that is what all development does. Now, the interesting one is, well, what goes before the NAB and what goes before a public hearing? So let's kind of walk through that. Within that big document, the 650-page zoning code, we have about 20 pages. That's basically a matrix of charts. And so an example is the one before you on the table of allowed uses. So we list every different type of potential use, everything from a car dealership to a single family home to auto repair shop to an industrial building, right? All the different potential types of building uses are on that list. And that row on top is every different zoning district. So then you'd find your use, let's say Walgreens, and then you'd find your zoning. And it would tell you within that zoning district, for instance, a Walgreens, a commercial retail business, is either allowed, there's a P meaning permitted, or maybe it requires some kind of additional review. So this table here, 20 pages worth of that table, pretty much breaks it down. So the kind of the three different levels of review. The first one is that administrative review. So if it's an administrative review, that's more than just a building permit. You have to submit an application to the city planning department, and we do what we call a 30-day review. So we have 30 days to send it around to all the different staff. They provide their comments. We put a staff report together and we do conditions of approval. Those 30-day review projects do not come before the NAB. The other projects, planning commission approval and city council approval, those have a much longer timeline. So if you have something that requires a planning commission approval, it's about a 3-month process. So from the time the developer submits, and this is just, again, a preliminary review, it's not a building permit. From the time they submit till the time we get them to a planning commission, it's about 3 months. And that's best case scenario. Typically, there's a lot of back and forth with, oh, this section we're not comfortable with, or we had a lot of public concerns over this piece of your development. So we really go back and forth and try and work with the developer to make it a better project. So that's why it takes 3 months before it goes to a planning commission. So those are the triggers for the different types of development applications. Planning commission, they typically see things that you've seen, like a conditional use permit or a tentative map, or maybe a major site plan review. Those are probably some words that you guys have seen in different development projects. All of those go to planning commission. City council review, they review what we call an annexation. And that is if the city is going to take a piece of property that's not currently within the city limits and annex it. So once they annex it, that means we are now paying for services. So now they become City of Reno Police. If you call 911, Reno Police shows up, no longer Washoe County Sheriff. If you call 911, Reno Fire shows up, not Truckee Meadows Fire. But because we've annexed it, right, we take on that responsibility, but we also have taxes. So once they're annexed, they also pay city taxes, property taxes that goes to the city. So from a city council perspective, that's the type of application they review. Big picture, I mean, that's a policy question, right? Do you want to take on more land? Do you have the budget to take on more land? Do we have police and fire services to take on more land? The other thing city council would approve would be a roadway abandonment. Those, yeah, I think you guys have probably seen those as well, where an application will come in and they maybe want to abandon an alleyway. We see this often in the downtown area where maybe they bought all the land on both sides of the alleyway. They want to create a big project and make it, instead of an alleyway separating a building, they want to make a giant building over the whole block. So they would typically come in and do an abandonment. Those kinds of applications go to a city council. So in terms of what do you guys get to see and why? When we talked about that 30-day review, so an application comes in and we have 30 days. The challenge with getting that to a NAB is timing. From the time an application comes in, we have to make sure there's time to get it on a NAB agenda. And B, make sure we have time to review it, get it out for comments. So all those things really can't be done in a 30-day window if it also has to go to a NAB. However, we do send it out for public comment. So we have these lovely little yellow postcards. So anyone within 750 feet of that development still has an opportunity to provide comments. So they can, they email our staff, they can email, they can call, they can send in letters, all those opportunities. They can click on a link and just put in their comments. So it's not like we ignore the public comment process by not going to the NAB. We still have a public comment process. It just goes straight to the staff planner who can then work with the developer to incorporate those concerns. So again, kind of what you guys do see, anything that goes to planning commission or city council first goes to NAB. We do have situations where a NAB is canceled. And so a lot of times if the NAB is canceled, there's not enough time the next month to get it on the NAB agenda before the planning commission's already scheduled. Typically during the holidays is when we see most of the NAB cancellations. November and December are always challenging to get quorums and whatnot. But we do our best to try and make sure all these projects go to the NAB first for comment and definitely for the neighborhood feedback before we put them on a public hearing agenda. So the things that you guys do not see also is building permits. Nobody reviews building permits other than city staff. There's no public notice. There's no input from the neighborhood. Those are what we call allowed by right. So if you wanted to put a shed in your backyard, do we notify the neighbors? No. Do we send out an agenda to the NAB saying you're putting a shed in your backyard? No. So, I mean, that's from a high level, think of it that way, right? We have about 10,000 building permits a year. Can you imagine if we had 10,000 projects that we had to get public input on? It just wouldn't be feasible. So that's where our zoning code comes back into play and says, here's the list of uses that are allowed to go to a building permit without any public hearing. Versus here's the list of uses that warrant a higher level of review. Apartments are a great example. A lot of times you'll see apartment projects greater than 100 units. Typically, if it's more than 100 units, that's kind of the trigger for, ooh, this is going to have potentially a significant impact on the neighborhood. So that's what would warrant going to a NAB and a planning commission. But in the downtown area where we're trying to encourage density, a lot of those are allowed by right, right? If you were to develop right now next door in any development around us, any parcel around us, for the most part, you can have as many units as you want, as tall as you want, and as close to the property line as you want, unlimited density. However, that doesn't mean that like people are swarming to Reno to do development because it's unlimited density, right? It's still a big barrier. I mean, it's expensive to develop anywhere. And just because you zone it and say there's no public hearing and you can build as many units as you want, doesn't mean we're getting all these fantastic developments. But the areas where we want to see infill, at least from a council perspective, right? Council has said we want walkable communities, we want infill in our downtown. So here's some of the things we've done to try and encourage that type of development. But back to the NAB. So again, certain things you guys will see, certain things you won't. I think there's been some questions on big industrial projects. And I'm not sure it's probably not such a big deal in Ward 3, but in some of the other wards like Ward 2, for instance, we've had some newer big industrial developments and the NABs have said, how come that didn't come before us? I would have provided a lot of comment. But again, if the zoning code doesn't trigger the need to go to a public hearing, then they're allowed to go straight to a building permit by right, no public review, no public comment. And then just in terms of what is the public notice process. So anytime one of these projects comes in, again, not a building permit, but something that triggered either that 30-day staff review or something that's required to go to planning commission or city council, within a week after we receive it, we as staff, we send out a courtesy notice. So this is not required. This is just an additional piece of information. It's a yellow postcard. I think actually the courtesy notices might be pink. But generally speaking, this is what the postcard looks like. It gives you the case number. We provide a link so you can click on a link and get information about it. And then we also give you dates so that if you're maybe interested in learning about what's happening in your neighborhood, we give you potential dates. Now, these are not set in stone, But these are the dates that they're tentatively planned for either a neighborhood advisory board or a planning commission or a city council. So that's what happens the first week of getting an application. We then start that review process. And again, about 3 months later, it will go to a planning commission. So right before it goes to planning commission, about 2 weeks, it's 10 days, we send out another postcard. It's a yellow postcard, letting the neighbors know that this project has been scheduled for a hearing. If you've ever driven by and seen those giant yellow signs posted in front of a property, that's also a requirement. So not only do we send the yellow postcards to the neighbors, everyone within 750 feet, but we also require that those big yellow signs are posted. And a lot of times if you're driving by, it's too hard to read the font, but it's enough to tell you, oh, I'm going to pull over and see what this says and see what this is all about. So one of the challenges we've heard from NAB members is, well, how come the meeting dates change? And this is a particular problem when, again, week 1 of getting an application to review, we send out that courtesy postcard and it has a date when that project is going to be scheduled for a NAB. So if there's a situation where staff's reviewing the application and we're like, oh, we have major issues with this, like, nope, we're going to need you to go back and completely redesign this. At that point, it doesn't make sense to go to the NAB because we can't even tell you what the project is if we have major changes. So what we typically do is we say, applicant, you're going to have to push everything back, right? Push your NAB date back, push your planning commission date back, everything gets bumped. So we try and push it to the next month and hoping that they can kind of, between our city staff and the designer of the project, can kind of work out what's working and what's not, so that when we come to the NAB, we can give you a better final product. There's nothing worse than you guys looking at something saying, that is awesome, I really like that. And then it goes to planning commission, you're like, whoa, 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 that is nothing like what you showed me. So we want to be realistic and give you guys something accurate to look at so that you can provide comments before it goes to planning commission and it's already completely revamped and different. So what we try and encourage folks to do is just go to the NAB agenda. And again, share this with your neighbors too, because I think a lot of them, they get a postcard and they think I'm going to show up at a NAB, but they didn't actually get a NAB agenda or a NAB invite, right? But they do have everything posted online. So if something's going to get bumped off a NAB, folks can go to the agenda section. I provided a link, but I can send this out to you guys as well. Everything's posted online. So right up to the day of, they can make sure that that project that they were concerned about is still on the agenda. And then finally, how can your neighbors and yourselves just stay involved in what's happening within the city of Reno? I will tell you, there's a lot happening. Not just in Ward 3, but all over, right? We're doing a lot of great things in downtown. All the different areas where you see construction, which is everywhere, are things that you're like, again, how come I didn't know about this? So this, to me, is the best way for everybody to stay up to date. We have this section on our zoning code, and the best way to find it is just go to the reno.gov website. And on the search engine, you can plug in, how do I sign up for newsletters? And it takes you to this page on the right where you can click everything that's of interest to you. So if you're interested in seeing all of the NAB agendas, you can click on those and you'll get an email. If you're interested in seeing city council or planning commission agendas, same thing. If you're interested in just, what are the seniors working on? There's a link where you can get emails with updates on and all these different areas that Reno as a whole is working on. So it's kind of overwhelming if you sign up for all of them, but super helpful if you're just interested in development and want to know what's happening on, in your ward or maybe next door to your ward. So definitely encourage folks that that are interested in learning to get on these email lists. And they can receive all that information. So again, high level, we just wanted to keep you guys informed as to what comes before you and why. And hopefully that gives you enough information to say, I know a little bit now, but I don't know enough to do any damage. So if you have any questions, let me know if I can answer.
Any questions from the NAB? Anybody online?
None online, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Well, I would like to say thank you for your time. This is, it's really interesting, because sometimes you do, question like, why isn't this reviewed a certain way or whatnot? This gives a pretty, good explanation why sometimes we don't know about certain things and so yeah, thank you for this information.
Wonderful. Thank you,
If
guys.
there's no any questions, then. Oh,
Have a good one.
hi. Hmm. Very good. So let's go ahead and continue on. Uh, Let's continue on with section C, Board of Commission Committee Member Reports and Announcements.
No announcements on my end, Mr. Chair.
Any announcements from the NAB members? Alrighty then, let's continue on. For section D, future agenda items. Is there anything coming up in future agendas that we need to discuss?
We will have RPD next month for their report as well, so I do want to flag that. If you guys come up with any future items that you would like to see, feel free to send me an email. I know it's not necessarily right now, but throughout the month until our next NAB meeting, feel free to email me. For example, Angela Foos thought this would be great. I know some of you guys are relatively new, so I think it was a good learning experience, but go ahead. Marie, I think you had something?
Yes, Councilmember Martinez said that there would be a couple of vacancies. Is that going to be on the agenda?
Correct. There are a couple of vacancies. Until we get further applications, they won't be on our NAB agenda. They will be on the Reno City Council meeting. But if you have people who you would like to promote that to, or I can send to the application, all you guys applied, so I know you know how to do the process. But feel free to share those, and then hopefully we'll get more applications. Those will go to Reno City Council. They'll get the vote, and then they will be on our NAB.
Alexander Woodard for the record. I do have a question for the staff. I don't know if you remember, but we did request having RPD. I don't remember what unit it was. We
Yes.
did request having
Correct.
further RPD breakdowns. Do we have any updates on that?
Yeah, so I've been working, actually, this was a good update to give. I forgot. Abigail Mayorga for the record, but I have been working with Lieutenant Dye, the officer who came to our NAB to kind of coordinate those. We've been going back and forth just to figure out a better time for the regional gang unit was one of them. And additional teams that they have, a safe team and a couple other ones. So hopefully we'll have some information from him in April. But we have been coordinating and we are working on it. It's just taking some time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, anything else we need to review before we continue?
This is Jennifer Samio for the record. An update on Daybreak would be nice as well, especially in just the Ward 3, any development coming.
Yeah, of course, Jennifer. So we do, with our planning team, we have a master plan and they kind of, not a master plan, but a master information system that we use where they notify us of any developments that are coming to Ward 3. Ward 3 just doesn't have too many so far, but I do believe we will have some in the future. So those will be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go ahead and continue on with any more. Do you have any public comment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have public comment in person for Donna Clontz.
Very good.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I won't keep you because I know it's 7 o'clock right now. Donna Clontz for the record. I wanted to talk a little bit about one part of Ward 3 that I spend a lot of time in because of the senior activities that go on there through our recreation programs, Neil Road and Paradise Park. Paradise Park in particular has the biggest concentration of senior residents in Reno. And I don't know if you guys knew that, but because of that, because of the small homes, the high-rise senior living spaces. Reno Housing Authority is there. Mobile home parks, all of those kinds of folks make up a density that is it's really high in seniors living in Ward 4, in Ward 3. They've become very interested in the activities or lack thereof at Paradise Park, and they're very motivated to be help and voices and ideas for improving what's going on at Paradise Park at the activity center that they use every day as kind of a senior center. There was just a fire that destroyed the brand new playground there. It's in the news right now, and I guess the word will come out about exactly what that was all about. But I wanted to just bring that up to you today, that there's a large number of our senior community who want to get involved in there's a master planning process that the city is going through right now for Paradise Park, all the space, including the issues around the homeless population that's in there a lot, the crime activities that go on there that I think both the law enforcement agencies that patrol that area, both Reno and Sparks, which borders it, are very concerned about. And there's something called community policing that both of our law enforcement agencies work on together. And it's something that we might want to bring in front of the NAB and maybe in front of council to work as a community on correcting a lot of the things that happen there that make it so hard for the kids and the seniors and everybody else, the families, to really enjoy that great big space out there. Second biggest park that Reno has. So thanks for your time and looking forward to talking to you again.
So much.
I will check for public comment on Zoom. If you have public comment, feel free to raise your hand at this time. No one on Zoom, Mr. Chair?
Very good. Then let's if there's no more public comment, then I think we are done. Let's I motion an adjournment of this meeting. Can I get what did it say?
I second. Jennifer Hilburn.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All opposed?
All opposed? Very good. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a nice afternoon or
Thank
evening.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Hildebrand.
Thanks. Appreciate it.